Hey, so I got my espresso here, and check out this view. How rough is that, right? What a rough life. What what a rough life. So, the Philippines. If I were going to advise a friend who'd never traveled or somebody, nervous about traveling or thinking about living abroad, and you only had 2 weeks, ideally I would say spend a month somewhere. But if you've only got 2 weeks, let me outline this for you. Real simple, real specific. You can go on like Expedia or Booking.com or something and look for a package deal. I found the best flight prices with package deals. So it used to be Scorebirds was a sweet spot. Scorebirds in Angeles City, the Philippines, was a sweet spot. Okay, so I was saying it used to be Scorebirds was a sweet spot. And the way I would, because of the package deal, so play around with it. You can find the package deal or just book your flights. But I would book a package deal to Scorebirds and only book the hotel for like a weekend, usually the first weekend, right? And then I would try to fly into Clark. If you can't fly into Clark because of it costs more, go ahead and fly into Manila. And there's ways to get to Clark very cheaply. There's ways to get to Clark very easily, and that costs more money. Shout out to Rem if he's still out there driving. Rem's drivers and Rem were just amazing service when I was going to the Philippines pre-pandemic. But okay, so you've got 2 weeks. You fly into the Philippines. First thing I would do is spend a weekend in Angeles City, just doing nothing but getting used to the time change and getting used to the climate, right? A little climatization, a little resetting of the clock. And what you're doing there is you want to make sure you go to bed early. I know this is counterintuitive to the Philippines, counterintuitive to Angeles City. Your first weekend, go to bed early. It is very important if you want the rest of your vacation to be memorable and be great and be fabulous, especially the first 3 days. Go to bed early, get up in the morning, get outside, get a walk in, and start your morning routine, but go to bed early. And if you arrive, say midday, don't take a nap. Don't take a nap. Stay up as long as you can until you get to, bedtime, which should be 10 or 11. If you're, just plan on going to bed around 10 or 11, and don't go to bed drunk or anything like that. A few cocktails will help, but all the best practices, you want to employ those. Now, as far as the flight, a lot of people say direct flight. I don't like direct flights. I like trying to stop about halfway. Now, from the West Coast to the Philippines, you can't really stop halfway, but I was finding a lot of layovers in Korea, and Korea is very easy to do a long layover in. So you could do 26 hours or so in Korea, and that's great because you can go get a hotel, lay down, sleep. There's even a hotel in the airport. Book it in advance. I think it books on 4 or 6 hour things. And if you don't have enough time to go get a hotel or the money to go get a hotel, Incheon has these lounges, the transfer lounges, and they're free, and they have these great big chairs. So bring some earplugs, bring an eye mask, and just hold up in one of those lounges and in one of the recliners and take a nap there. But I like to get out and walk around mid-flight as much as I can. For me, anything over 6 hours, I'm not a fan of. I can do, and I've done, I've flown London to LAX. I've done long flights like that where you're stuck in that tube forever, and it's just not worth it to me. Besides, you get to experience a little, it's like a mini vacation on the way to your vacation. Okay, so you get to Angeles City. Now, my first choice to book in would be at the Drake Hotel. Eric and Poppy, Eric and Mercy have Poppy's Bar and Chill there. Drake Hotel is not a luxury hotel. It is a base rate hotel. But the nice thing about it is you're right upstairs from Eric and Poppy's place. I need more coffee. Yeah, hold on. There you go. You're right upstairs from Eric and Mercy's place. Poppy's Bar and Chill, and you will meet some of the best people in Poppy's Bar and Chill when it comes to expats. You're also close to Tequila Reef. Everything's walking distance, but you're not in the mix of the downtown party zone. So you actually will get some good sleep, and it's just a nice place to chill, relax, and meet a lot of people to talk to. Because if you're on this exploratory trip and you don't want to talk to people, I don't know what your point of taking the trip is. The advantage to going to some place like the Philippines is you get to meet people at all phases of this experience, and you get to talk to them. And I mean, let's face it, in the Philippines, Angeles City is probably the loneliest city in the world. It's a bunch of lonely souls looking for a connection. And then you've got the people that live there, and you've got the people that work there, but pretty much everybody else is just a lonely soul looking for a connection of some sort. Whether it's a young lady looking for a husband, whether it's a expat looking for whatever, they all seem to gravitate to there. So it's a great place to sit, and I call it shopping for your future. You can sit there on a bar stool, and watch everybody walk by. And, hey, I don't want to be like that guy. I want to be like that guy. I definitely don't want to be that asshole. I definitely don't want to be this guy filming girls, shoving cameras in everybody's face. It allows you to see what other people are doing, and there's a ton of people you'll never see that are living great lives, but you can meet them at different restaurants. And I've met a couple just phenomenal people who living these crazy extreme retirements compared to what we think is normal, but it's normal to them. So it's not crazy and extreme, it's just fabulous, it's just wonderful. They're just doing what they want with the time they have left on this planet. And I think that was part of Ugly's message that he didn't articulate specifically was, you've only got so much time on this planet. How much time are you going to spend being miserable, and how much time are you going to spend being happy? That's a choice that you have to make. That's not a choice I can make. That's not a choice Ugly can make. That's a choice you have to make. So you fly in and out of Manila or Angeles City. You book up at Scorebirds or Poppy's or Drake Hotel and spend a couple days. Now that your first 3 nights are done, take a flight. So, and you can pre-book all this before you can go, and I'll circle back to that at the end. But take a flight and go somewhere. Now, my favorite is Coron. I think Coron is the easiest in and out. I love El Nido. I think El Nido's get better in a lot of ways, but Coron is the easiest access because you fly in, you take a bus, you're at a hotel, you've got the whole day to play. Where Coron, you fly into Puerto Princesa, you gotta get a bus, and now you can fly directly into El Nido, but it costs a ton of money. And if you're a baller, sure, take the Air Swift is what you're looking for. Take Air Swift, and it will fly you from Angeles straight to El Nido, but it costs a lot of money. So Coron, you can get regular commercial flights in and out of Angeles City, right to Coron, and it's real super easy access. So go spend 3 nights in Coron. 3 nights in Coron, 4 nights in Coron, somewhere in there, not just 2. 2 nights you're not gonna. My general rule of thumb after traveling so extensively is 2 nights is like a sneak and peek. 3 nights you can actually do something. And in Coron, I would say you're gonna be there 3 nights. It gives you 2 real days, right? So 1 day spend around the city on a motorbike or not, and 1 day spend on boat tours. If you don't go island hopping in Coron, you're missing the world. Now, if you're really adventurous and you can plan ahead and you know how to do this and this and that, there's a ferry that rides from Coron to El Nido, and it has a balcony on top. And that ferry is like, if you hit the weather good, that ferry's just an amazing ride, and I can't tell you, I'm so itching to go back and do it again. One of the best experiences I had was just chilling up there because everybody was afraid of the sun. I had my hat, I had my coverings, I had a long sleeve shirt, and I just sat up there, and it was like a cruise, the most amazing cruise, day cruise. And then you get to El Nido, you grab some food, grab some rest, and you're back out on an island hopping. So it was great. But you're in and out of Coron 3 or 4 nights, back to Angeles City, spend 2 nights now, and then go somewhere else. From here you can go many places. The beauty of Angeles City is that airport. People have said this before. I've been saying this since 2019. What makes Angeles City so fabulous is the airport. You are in and out of the airport so fast. The only airport I've found where I'm consistently in and out a similar time is Tirana, Albania is close, but still usually twice the time of Clark. So it's still usually 2x. And in Tirana, it's, you're 30-40 minutes from the city. And Angeles and Clark, it's right there. It is right there. So that you're back to Angeles City, spend 2 nights, 3 nights, whatever you want, right? And then back out. Now, I would say Siargao, Cloud 9, General Luna area is another good option because I've been there. I love it. You can actually take a bus trip and go up to Baguio if you're interested in that. You can fly to Dumaguete if you're interested in that. Cebu if you're interested in that. Boracay. Boracay's like a beach resort. Like if you want to go spend some money and sit on the beach, yeah, okay, do that. I would rather not spend all that money and go someplace else and sit on the beach and not have all the luxury amenities that I don't really personally need. I can go sit on the beach many places and be just as happy. I can pack a cooler. I don't need somebody to wait on me hand and foot. And I don't need to pay those crazy prices, right? But take a second trip, go someplace different. Porto Galera is a really nice place to go, but the problem is it's a full day on a bus, a ferry ride, and then you're there, and there's no shortcut. There's, sure you can get a fast ferry, sure you can do this, but you're still spending a whole day of travel. The nice thing about going to someplace like Coron or Siargao is your travel is only a portion of your day. You're not wasting an entire day on travel. So you can get up and do things in the morning, catch your flight, or get up in the morning, catch your flight, and do things in the afternoon. A lot of times when you travel, having an entire day for travel, it's just a waste of time, right? For me. Now in Siargao, obviously if you go to General Luna, go to Cloud 9, there's land tours, there's bus tours. Boho is another good place to go check out. Go see the little tiny monkeys, tangiers or whatever. Go see the chocolate hills if that floats your boat. Go swim with the turtles. Go swim with the whale sharks. There's so many things to do. But pick 2 is my advice. Pick 2. Go do those. And then you're back to Angeles City, chill out for a few days, and fly out. And when you're in Angeles City, don't be sitting in your hotel room. That's why I like staying at the Drake. I'm not going to be sitting in my room at the Drake. Don't get me wrong, the rooms are great. The beds are, what you get what you pay for, right? But it gets you up and out. You would rather be outside than in your room. And it's safe, secure, and clean. I can't tell you how important that is to me as a traveler. Safe, secure, and clean. I just love it. I just love it. And in fact, I should do a video. I thought about doing this video, the difference between 3 hotels. I'll crank that out as a little short here. But then you fly home, and then you start going, okay, now what am I doing? Right? And without that time after your second little 3 or 4 day trip in the Philippines, inside the Philippines, now you're back at the bar, you're talking with people, you're sitting down, at Kokomo's or whatever, meeting people, talking to people. You have a whole different perspective, right? And you're starting to see things differently. You're starting to ask different questions. You're starting to meet the locals. You're starting to talk to the locals. And if you're really like an A+ guy, you're going to set up, you're going to see some of these vloggers, and you're going to be, hey, I'm in town this time. Can I buy you lunch? Can I buy you dinner? And most of them will say, no, don't buy me, right? Because that's who they are. Some of these vloggers are really great people. But getting one-on-one time with them is invaluable. if they're a good person, good vlogger. I've met people who met their, vloggers they'd been following for years and they were assholes. And I'll be honest, I don't have a ton of time in my day to carve out for people. But if I bump into people, I take as much time as I can afford. And, it's just interesting. Oh, I love this. These ferries, they plane on top of the water. So they've got the wings under the water. I call them the flying ferries of Saranda. But yeah, I love watching these ferries. He's powering down as he sinks back into the water. They're so fun and fast. I still haven't. I want to be able to ride on the outside. That's like the little bus ferry where you ride inside. But I would love to be able to sit up top and ride on one of those ferries all the way. There is a little area in the middle where you can smoke and sit, but it's kind of limited. Anyway. But yeah, so when you're back in Angeles City, you're going to have a whole new set of questions. That's why it's important to me you have 3 or 4 days there to chill, relax before you go home, and ask all those questions that you now developed over traveling. And you're going to do things like ride in a trike, ride in a jeepney. If you're scared to get in a jeepney, this is what I did. I met a girl working at the bar at the hotel, not that bar. And I said, hey, I've never been in a jeepney. Will you teach me how to ride jeepneys? And she looks at me like I was dumb, because to them it's like walking, right? But she took me on a jeepney ride, right? And I paid her, of course, right? You don't expect anything for free, but there's so many options there. And when you're in Angeles City, go golfing if golfing is your thing. Go plan a waterfall trip if waterfalls are your thing, right? Plan a beach trip if beaches are your thing. From Angeles, you can, now I told you I'm not a big fan of buses, but you can get a bus up to San Juan Union, I think, or Baguio, or all these other places, right? 100 Islands, right? You can go all these other places. You don't have to fly to those 2 I mentioned. Do your diligence and pick the two minimum you want to go, and you can do this all on an affordable budget. You would be surprised. But the big question is, why aren't you doing it? The big question is, what are you scared of? Are you scared of finding a happier future for yourself? What scares you? Because when I brought it back to myself, when I go back to 2017, 2018, when I first started traveling again, it was just because I was scared. So I was scared I would screw something up, I would get there and not be able to get back. So what did I do? I booked a package deal. And I still screwed that up. Missed a flight, it's a long story, but I had to pay out of pocket last minute to grab a flight. Almost ended up in jail in China because the flight went through China. It was just crazy. But guess what? I made it home. And what's the first thing I did? I started planning my next trip, and then planning my next trip, and then planning my next trip. And then I said, wait, I need to stop planning these trips. I need to just move. So you can learn from me, or you can learn from Ugly, or you can learn the hard way like I did. But if you go once and you enjoy it enough and you see the reality of it, you see the downsides, you see the upsides, you see the pros and cons. If you're an objective, pragmatic person, and you say, yeah, I can do this. And then here's the beauty of it, is once you're in the Philippines, guess what? Bali, $200 round trip. Kuala Lumpur, $200 round trip. All these other places. I even found, I want to say it was $250 from Osaka to Angeles City. I think that was the price, or maybe it was Manila. But you start looking at all these prices, right? And you can now go, if you're living in the Philippines, you go back and look at my bucket list on a budget video, you can now go all these amazing places on a pittance, on a very tiny budget. And it's just a matter of making the commitment. It's just a matter of, in America, don't ever buy coffee at a store. Like here, it costs me about as much to make this coffee as it does to come here and get it. So of course I'm going to come enjoy this view. Of course I'm going to come enjoy the birds and the ferries coming and going, right? Why wouldn't I? Because it costs about the same. In America, I can make a cup of coffee for about a third of what I pay for, or a greater variance there. And so I was able to save all that money. I didn't eat out. I would eat out once a week. I'd go to taco trucks on Tuesday with a friend, and that was it. I would eat meals that were healthy, clean, non-processed food. First step in all this process is throw your microwave away. Second step is empty all that processed food out of your freezer. Learn to eat like you're planning to eat in the future. And so I started to learn to eat. How can I eat abroad cheaply and in a pinch? If shit goes sideways, how can I survive? I can survive on a little bit of meat, a little bit of vegetables, and make a one-pot meal, a soup, and eggs. Eggs are cheap everywhere in the world except America. I guess they're coming back down, but I can eat eggs 3 times a day, 6 days a week, no problem. Then I need some fish or meat, but I can live so much cheaper than I do. I just choose to enjoy the time I have. And look at Ugly. Look at all these other successful people. I'm telling you, take his advice. Think hard about it. Take that first trip, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask people. But I'm telling you, when you get to Angeles City, I think that is the best first trip for somebody who's never traveled, wants to learn to travel, wants to do this, wants to do that, because there's so much support there. You sit down at Poppy's Bar and Chill with a problem, and you will have 30 solutions by the time you finish 3 beers. It's just a fact. It's full of old people who want to tell you what to do. They want to share their opinions, right? I'm no different, right? I'm just an opinionated gray-haired guy with a camera. And the beauty of it is you get such a vast spectrum of people and experiences. You'll meet the first-time traveler. You'll meet somebody who's been traveling for 30 years. I thought I was a pretty good traveler, pretty good packer. After 2 years of being a nomad, I met people there who totally changed my perspective on some issues, because I was open to it and I was friendly and I just was having fun. And I started asking, hey, how do you do this? What do you do here? And wow, okay, it was like back in school. I'm like, okay, I can pick up this habit, that trick. That's a good practice, right? Habits, tips, and tricks. It's like you can pick up tons of them. And when you're shopping for your future, sitting there in Angeles City, watching all these people go by, you want to focus on the habits. You want to focus on the practices. What do you do every day? What's your everyday life like? When you see a guy walking by jacked, hey, are you doing that with help, or are you doing that natural? You're doing natural. Wait, what kind of life do you live? What do you eat, right? Because I want to be more like that guy and less like this guy, right? I want to be more like that, less like this, more like that, less like this. And when you sit there and you talk to the people that are more like this and less like, or, in those different categories, you go, okay, well, you're drinking 6 Cokes a day. I'm not drinking Coke ever again. Okay, you're not drinking any Coke. I'm with you. I'm not drinking any Coke, right? Okay, you're drinking 12 beers a day and you're not drinking any. Okay, I want to be somewhere in the middle, right? Oh, you're eating 3 hamburgers a week. You're eating no bread. I want to be somewhere in the middle, right? But seeing your future walk by you and these older men that are out and about, living their life, is a really great thing to obsess on, because it allows you to formulate, plan, and successfully live your dream, just like the Ugly Tourist did. I am so impressed and so happy for him, because he's been a great influence on me, and I hope you allow him to be an influence on you, because what's it going to hurt? You scared of being a better person? You're scared of being happy? You're scared of laughing? He's just a happy guy that makes me laugh, and provides an outline of living his dream. It may not be your dream, may not be my dream. It's his dream. He's doing what he wants to do, and he's doing it very well. And you got to respect that. But that's my idea on a first trip to the Philippines. Let me break it down real fast, speed run here. Book a round trip ticket to Manila or Clark. stay 3 days in Angeles City, fly out to a destination for 3 to 4 days, fly back 2 days in Angeles City, fly out to a second destination, 3 or 4 days, fly back 3 or 4 days, fly home. And in that time, I highly recommend going places, not just the bar scene. That's not where the value in Angeles City lies. The value in Angeles City lies in the support network of expats that are readily available there. And you're not going to meet them, all of them. You're not going to meet the best of them at some of these nasty bars. You're going to meet them at places like Poppy's Bar and Chill, Tequila Reef, right? And set up meetings with people. Say, hey, look, I'm coming. I would really appreciate an hour of your time. I know you don't want me to pay you, but even if don't be against the idea of paying people for their wisdom. And most of them that I've tried that with say no. I'll meet with you if I have time, but no. And some of them will say, yeah, sure, that's great. But I believe that if I'm asking for something, I should provide something back. And so hopefully I've provided you with some value here, and you go follow Ugly Tourist, give him a like and subscribe. Take care.